Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel made in Manchester. First and foremost, apologies about yesterday. It was probably the first time we didn't do a live in a day for probably about 3 years, and that was because of outside circumstances, which I won't get into. But we are back today, and we have some topics on the table. Obviously, Ruben Amorim has been doing his press conference yesterday. We had the embargo section drop last night as well, so there's a couple of interesting quotes in that. We've had reports from Germany still about Tell wanting to join Manchester United, which I think is really interesting. We'll discuss this little cameo last night. Victor Gyökeres has been linked with us once again for around £60-odd million in the summer. And we've got more news on Quenda as well. Or Kenda, should I say how it should be pronounced. But we've got Mr. Shreyas alongside me. How are we doing, sir?
Yeah, doing fairly well. For some reason, my SIM port got jacked a couple of days ago. So I wasn't really able to access much of my WhatsApp or calls, but got a new phone out of this. So feeling much better today.
Okay, happy days. Well, Marcus Rashford, I was going to do a really good segue then, and my words got muddled up. I was saying, Marcus Rashford hasn't had access to Old Trafford. That is because he is at Villa's training ground. And Ruben Amorim was being asked about the situation. He's saying, what I say is I couldn't put Marcus to see the way you're supposed to play football and to train the way I see it. And sometimes you have one player who's really good with one coach, and the same player with another coach is different. I just wish the best to Rashford and Unai Emery, and they can connect because he's a very good player. What are you expecting from Marcus at Villa, Shreyas, personally?
I mean, look, if you hear it from the perspective of Unai Emery, he thinks he is that starlet signing that might give them that edge in the Champions League. So I think one thing that I would say definitely doesn't really work in Rashford's favor is he's being seen in the same light as he was being seen at Manchester United. That guy who's going to get you to the level, who's going to get you to propel you to those trophies and be that X factor in certain kind of situations, because Unai Emery actually sees him as this sort of player who can completely elevate the level of this team. And I think he already has that in a way with Ollie Watkins, but he sees him in a completely different light. And according to him, he can get him back to that level where he was banging goals for us, in Ten Hag's first season. So look, I don't wish bad for him. I really hope that things do work out for him, whether it's at Villa or whether it's at any other club, because he's been at the club for a long time, and he's at least some player who I would say he gets what Manchester United is about. He's come through the academy. He's given us a lot of moments to actually look back and feel happy about. So I wish things could have been a bit different as to how it got with Ruben Amorim and Marcus Rashford, but I just wish the best for him. And if he can actually have a very good spell at Aston Villa, helps us in a way as well that we can actually drive his price a little bit up if the situation presents itself that maybe we can get 10 or 20 mil more for Marcus Rashford. But I think it's going to be very high pressure for him at Villa as well, because of the competitions they are in and the quality they already possess in that team. They've got Morgan Rogers, who's been doing fantastically well. You've got Ollie Watkins, who's been doing fantastically well in that team. And then even on the wings, Leon Bailey might not produce the stats, but he's very effective in his role. You look at someone like Jacob Ramsey, who's been coming up through the ranks. Then they've also signed Asensio this season as well, who is that sort of flair winger as well. So he's got a lot of competition to actually prove himself at Villa.
I think you can absolutely see why they've gone with a profile like Rashford, though, in it. Like you touched on, you've already got that kind of British core of squad players: Jacob Ramsey, Ollie Watkins, Morgan Rogers, Tyrone Mings, Konsa. I mean, they've got loads of kind of British players in there. So in terms of integrating with the group, I don't think that first and foremost would be an issue. Also, the way Unai Emery sets up that kind of transitional style, it's weird. It's not like he sets up in like this kind of weird compact mid block, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it plays a really high line. And then, like, they take risks in stepping up and making sure they keep that compactness. And it can be really effective sometimes. And it can really go against them sometimes if a team manages to pick them off. But with that transitional nature, we know Marcus Rashford, you're going to get the absolute best out of him from that system. So I actually expect him to go there and do well. I think he'll I don't think he'll come back to that kind of form where he's back. He scored 30 goals for us, for example. Let's just say, but I think he'll get a few key assists and a few key goals, and then again that can only be good for business, can't it?
Yeah, it can be. And look, I would still say this. If we are able to mint like 50 or 60 million for Marcus Rashford, I would take that as a very good deal for us because once again, we all know that United are going to, I don't know how many signings, but they are going to go crazy in the summer window. There is no doubt about it, and they have already started preparations for it. You can see all the links with Kenda, whether it's with Gyökeres and a couple of other left backs in the department as well. So United have already started. One thing that is good is that United have taken a kickstart into next season's campaign and actually started to work on potential transfers and everything. Right now itself, and not waited for the summer window and then actually start working on transfers. So that is something that is really good. Maybe we can get those deals done early. And Rashford is a big asset for the club. Even when he's sold, he's going to prove to be a very, very big asset for the club. And more than that, even if you take Manchester United out of the picture in this whole conversation, it is a big, big deal for Marcus Rashford himself. Because if he doesn't work out at Villa, if this deal doesn't really work out for him, there are going to be big question marks over his career. And I would say, what sort of future Marcus Rashford has actually got left out of him, because it's not worked out at United. If he goes to Villa, a club who I would still say, have got a lot to fight for this season. They've had a very good campaign in the Champions League this season after so many years out of the competition. I think they're still in contention for the cup as well. And in the league, they're still in contention for top four. So Villa genuinely have a lot to fight for. They've got a good manager. They've got a very good team with some very different profiles. And it's a very interesting combination that Unai Emery is working with at that club. So if Rashford goes there and he's sidelined by Leon Bailey, Daniel Malen, Asensio, and these sort of players, it just wouldn't fit right. And I would say that Villa is a club where the pressure isn't as much as United, but he's still got a lot to prove because of the competitions that they are in.
I think it's equally as much as a gamble for Villa as well, because you think the finances that are going into it. I don't know, were they paying 80% of his wages? I think
84% of the wages are being paid by.
It's quite a big chunk of change. You're talking at least something like 200 grand.
Yeah.
A week that they're paying for him. I don't know if there was a loan fee attached to that. I'm not seeing any specific. I don't think there has been, because his wage is so expensive anyway.
I think there's an option to buy in the deal as well, which Unai Emery has considered very strongly. So for a club like Villa to place all their eggs in one basket, in that player being Marcus Rashford, it's a very huge gamble, a very, very huge gamble.
I mean, he's coached John Duran, obviously, who's left now and gone to Saudi Arabia. But if you knew about him as a player and the kind of flary personality he's got, he was difficult to deal with, and he managed to keep him on track for the most part. So who knows? He might do the same with Marcus. Let's wait and see. I do agree with you about the summer, though. I do think recruitment is really, really important, and this is something that Amorim got asked about as well in terms of Patrick Dorgu and Aiden Heaven. And he's saying we've tried to find the right players with the physicality for this league, young players, hungry players. Sometimes we cannot spend a lot of money with players. So it's that kind of profile that we look for, and Patrick Dorgu has all that ability to play in this team to improve. Aiden Heaven, the same thing. He's young, he's left-footed, he's a central defender, so it's the right profile for us in the moment. When do you think these two may be called upon? Because obviously we've got Leicester tonight, which will be live for, by the way, people, pre-match and post-match, so make sure you come and join us for that. But yeah, for both players, you think Aiden Heaven potentially a little bit longer? It seems like, obviously, Patrick Dorgu is a lot further along in his development in terms of playing first-team football.
I think as far as the opportunity presents itself, I think Dorgu might feature really soon for us. Maybe he gets some minutes tonight as well.
I hope so.
I think Aiden Heaven is someone who is still a bit far. The reason being, we still got people who can cover that left-sided centre-back position. I think, you can get away with playing Delict there. You can get away with playing, Mazraoui there, who I think can do a very good job in that department as well, because he's a very technically gifted player. So I think Maz can fill in there, Delict can fill in there. So you've got options. But when you see that left wing back positions, Dalot isn't cut out for that position. So I think Dorgu might be fast-tracked into the team. And as Amorim has said, all he wants to see is commitment on the training pitch and commitment on the field. And if Dorgu can feature, can actually present that, and even Aiden Heaven can actually present that and convince him to a point where, this guy is ready to go. Ruben Amorim isn't the kind of manager who hesitates a lot to put players in. So we might be seeing them really soon, but I think Dog will be far more ahead than Eden Heaven.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what everyone else thinks about that, by the way. Do you think Dorgu will get minutes tonight? Get it in the chat. Jonathan Ball saying, do you think the club needs to be more punitive with the press after Jackson's troll question? Can I say something on Jamie Jackson as well, by the way? I know he's been on Stretford Paddock before, and I know Jay seems to be a fan of him. I really do not like the line in the question a lot of the times in the press conferences from him. He seems very pokey, very kind of manipulative questions. I don't know if people agree, but yeah, I was listening to it yesterday, and it's like it almost seems like he wants to have an argument rather than ask a question a lot of the times. That's how I feel, and I think there's a few journalists like that surrounding United, but which we spoke on before. Steph saying Jamie Jackson isn't even a United fan. West Ham, I think, gutter press at its worst. Press passes need to be removed if they continue with media mischief making. Absolutely. Alex saying Rashford is planning Barca move still. That's my guess. He wants the Barcelona move, but I mean the finances involved.
City are very smart though. I would say
astronomical, aren't they? Like the wages they're paying and the financial debts they're in at the minute. It's just I just don't see. I also don't see why they want him.
The thing that actually happened was Rashford actually waited for Barca, and I think in this it was the second last day of deadline. I think second last day it was Villa came in, and it got to a point where he was convinced that Barca won't be able to actually get him in. He moved to Villa. The moment he goes to Villa, City signed Nico Gonzalez, and Barca have a 40% sell-on clause on Nico Gonzalez, and suddenly they have all the funds in the world to sign another player. So
dodgy dealings there, mate.
Yes, but I think Villa might be the club for him, at least for now. I don't think that even in the summer, Barca would be entertaining Marcus Rashford, because by the looks of it, I think they'll be more inclined to go towards a striker next season to replace Lewandowski. Because if you look at their wings, you've got Rafinha, who's in the form of his life. Yamal is not going to be replaced anytime soon. They've also got Ansu Fati still at the club. They've got Ferran
Torres.
Ferran Torres. Fermin Lopez is there at the club as well, who features a lot in those attacking wings positions. So they've got enough wingers already. I think most of the funds will be delegated.
I like he was trying to force the move for me. But then again, if he hits the ground running at Villa and decides to stay there and they buy him, the whole narrative of next season is going to be Rúben, you let Marcus go. He's flying at Aston Villa now. And then the blame's going to be put on him and the pressure's going to be put on him. But then you can also look at it and be like, well, maybe it's just a case of taking him out of the United situation, just to picture in general the pressure. Obviously, of course, there'll be pressure from Villa fans, you'd imagine. But it's a different picture in it. It's just different settings, different environment. And maybe that's what he needs at the minute. I genuinely, I hope he does well. I hope he goes there and does he okay. And then we don't have to just continue to talk about him every single week, because I feel like he makes more headlines than anyone, even when he's not at the club at the minute. And he's still journalists asking about him. It's fucking irritating, in my opinion. Jonathan saying, honestly, I think you're going to be bitterly disappointed about the big summer blowout. I don't see it happening to the extent people have suggested. No, I don't think it'll be a big summer blowout. Maybe that's not the right words. But I think importance in that window is huge in terms of the
think the players that we'll get. I'm sure we'll get a striker. I'm sure we are going to be signing another fullback, and I'm sure we are going to get another midfielder. I'm not saying we'll get like 6 to 7 players, but I think even if we sign like 3 to 4 players, they'll be very effective signings.
Yeah. Steph saying Dorgu starts for me. UTF asking if Dorgu's ready for Napoli, he's ready for us. I mean, that's a fantastic point, to be fair. Yeah, I'd like to see him tonight. And I also think, just to add to that as well, if you look at what Amorim's done, he mid-season has basically done a pre-season, which is risky as fuck in terms of the league and cups and everything. So if he's going to take a risk and seeing, right, we finally got a profile player who fits that system, throw him straight in there. He could do. He might well start him, but we'll have to wait and see when the team news drops.
It's a better fixture to actually put him in. If he puts him in against Leicester, I think a better chance rather than putting him in straight in the Europa League or the likes of Arsenal or Liverpool in the league.
Yeah. And just on the relationship with the board and Jason Wilcox as well, Amorim's spoken about how the transfers are working at the minute and how he gets every say, or the final word basically is. So Jason Wilcox will identify a player, very similar to, Tiki Bergstein at Manchester City. They'll identify a profile of a player. The scouts will then bring him a list of players, and then Amorim will be like, yes, I like this player, Patrick Dorgu, for example, bring him in. He also got asked about if he has the backing from the board. He says, I feel the support. If you're asking that, I feel the support of the board, and I'm not the slightest bit worried about that. It's just the pain of losing. That is the hardest thing to cope. But I mean, coming in mid-season and doing the preseason, like I was saying, he would have communicated that to him. He would have because they said to him, it's now or never, Ruben. We need to start now. Yeah. So do you reckon Ineos expect, maybe not as bad as this, but expected this kind of bumpy ride for the next couple of months?
I think if you can read between the lines, they expected it after the first 5 games of the season.
Yeah.
You could see, those rumors and those kind of articles being circulated in the media that Ineos are regretting their decision that they decided to keep Ten Hag and didn't sack him and go for an alternative in the summer.
Yeah.
And I think they saw it coming. And they knew that, even if they get the right man in, or they get someone in who can actually back a successful project, for the long term, it will get messy, at least this season. And I think Ruben's job is safe no matter what happens this season. I think his job is safe. I think even if it gets very bad, I think he's still got like 1.5 seasons in him. Results don't matter right now. I think what matters towards the club more is the sort of way we play on the pitch, and what sort of idea Ruben Amorim is actually reflecting on these players. And by the looks of it, people are at the club are very convinced by that idea, because he works very well with the players. He demands a lot from these players, and he sets standards, getting most of the Deadwood players out of the club. And on top of that, the biggest profiles at the club, Marcus Rashford, is being left out. And he's managed to go into big games and actually pull out with results, whether it's City, whether it's Arsenal in the cup, whether it's Liverpool at Anfield. He's done a lot in this short time, I would say. And Casemiro as well, a very big profile, but he isn't really getting any minutes, not even being questioned a lot by the media as to what is the situation with Casemiro. So a lot of stuff has happened. He's had to face a lot of stuff as well, being given a very depleted squad and not enough, I would say, replacements in in place of those players. But I think he's just doing the best he can.
Yeah, I agree. And someone who was doing the best they can was Ruud van Nistelrooy when he taken as the interim manager. Amorim got asked about not keeping him on basically as part of his backroom staff, and he said, I was really clear with him and I explained that I have my team. I will continue the same way. I will not put a guy like Ruud, a legend of this club, in the end of the hierarchy in the staff. So it was a clear decision. It was really simple to explain, and he took it like a class guy, like he is. Do you think, with that in mind, though, do you think Ruud will be coming to Old Trafford tonight to really try make a point?
Look, the thing with Ruud, I think it was, even though it was for like 3 to 4 games, but it was a very good spell for Ruud van Nistelrooy at United, and I think the fans really loved every moment of it.
Yeah,
no matter the kind of situation that we were in, the way he was able to pull some results out. I think we beat Leicester twice in that spell. 5-2 and 3-0. We got a draw against Chelsea. Didn't really lose any game. Yeah, PAOK we won as well. I think it was our first win in Europe after quite some time under Ruud. So in that short time as well, he's given us some good moments. The fans really loved every single match day. And once again, Ruud is someone who knows this club inside out, and he knows what kind of standards and what kind of levels this club needs to play at, and what the fans actually want from this club. So I think coming into this game, of course, anyone coming playing up against Man United, especially someone who's been an interim manager or an ex-player, they want to make an impact. They want to make leave their mark. That just throwing my hat in there, that if something was to come up, or if something is going on, I can be involved. So I expect Ruud van Nistelrooy to come with everything that he's got, because his position at Leicester isn't really that great either. Because not to blame him on that, because Leicester
quality. No, I didn't think it was a light for light fit that. All. It's all Ruud. I think they should have got David Moyes or something.
Exactly. I think a better move for him would have been Wolves, because Wolves have still got more quality. They've got more firepower, I would say, in that attacking department, where Ruud actually, as a manager, expects a lot out from. I think Wolves would have been a better fit. But I don't know, for some reason, Leicester was just not the right fit, and I expected, whoever was to take the helm at Leicester, they are going to get relegated either way. There's no way that club is actually going to be able to survive because they just don't have the quality and enough resources to actually sustain in the Prem.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be an interesting game tonight. I don't know if it balances it more in Leicester's favour, the fact that Ruud has coached these players, so he knows them really, really well. So when you're setting up a game like this as a coach,
He's going to man mark the hell out of
you know
Abbas
their
today. He knows.
weaknesses, you know certain things, but then maybe that'll flip the other way, and Amorim's like, he knows his players, I'm going to have to switch something up and change it up. So I think it could be an interesting battle.
Amorim is going to look at his squad, what can I even change up with these guys?
Yeah, what can I change? I don't know. Yeah, I think there'll be a couple of surprises tonight anyway. I'll leave it at that. Speaking of surprises, we had Matthias Tel appear for Spurs last night in the Carabao Cup semi-final. I think with Charlton went off injured again. What an absolute shock, surprise. But obviously this is a player who's been linked with Manchester United, and we also had Christian Falk, who's pretty good around Germany in terms of news around players, especially Bayern Munich players. And he's still putting out there that Matthias Tel would like to join Manchester United in the summer if it's still a possibility. Now, when he came on, he didn't do... I mean, Tottenham didn't have a shot on target. I mean, Son Heung-min hit the bar, I think it was, but apart from that, he didn't really do much in the attacking areas. But having said that, I quite liked his little cameo yesterday. Only subtle details, but I think there is a player there for me personally. Is this someone do you think they would return to, or do you think that deal's completely done now?
I think it's done.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying it is done is because the entire focus has just shifted to Gyökeres. And it genuinely has. Every single media outlet and every single even rumor that I'm hearing is that United are dead set on getting Gyökeres next season, and that Sporting are ready to let him go for like 60 mil. So if I had to look at the options, and I understand how tight the budget is, would I be leaning more towards Matthias Tel, or would I be leaning more towards Gyökeres? And the answer
What about
is
both?
I don't know. Never, not going to happen.
It's not going to, but it's nice to dream in it, I suppose.
It would be great to have them both. If we can somehow manage that, because I think Tel is a very good player, and even during his spell at Bayern, he was being deemed as this generational talent out of France. A lot of people thought that he would be the next guy who can take the mantle like Mbappe. So there is a lot of I would say expectations from him, whether it's from the French national team or whether it's at club level as well. But maybe we can get an even better evaluation on him during his time at Spurs, because if can he adapt himself to the intensity of the Prem. And I think as an attacker, you can be judged best right now at Spurs because of the way they play. If you're a decent attacker, you're going to get a lot of goals when you're playing for Spurs at the moment. You're going to concede a lot for sure, but you'll even, be getting in a lot of positions to actually get some goals. Yeah. So if he's good enough and we have the resources, maybe we go in for him. But I think at the moment, it would only be one striker that we go in for, because you still got Højlund on the books. You still got Zirkzee on the books. So it's going to be a bit difficult as to how we, even out that situation.
I think Zirkzee would be an easy sale, though, in terms of I think you can almost recoup what you paid for him in the summer because there was interest in Italy for him. Milan was still
interested considering him a lot. Napoli are considering him a lot.
So I think if you wanted to get a return fee there, maybe not for what you paid for him, let's say 30 million, you can go and do that. And what's interesting at the minute, so I want to ask you a question. In the summer, there are 3 strikers with a release clause. Victor Gyökeres, £60 million expected price, gentleman's agreement, let's call it. Yeah. Victor Osimhen, another Victor, £63 million release clause. Harry Kane, £67 million release clause as well. Which striker would you go for and why?
Harry Kane is out. So it's going to be between Osimhen or Gyökeres. And I think right now, I would say Gyökeres. For me, the first choice right now would be Gyökeres, because I think if you look at the stats and you look at the numbers, just straight numbers, he's the most informed striker in Europe right now, hands down. He is, and Ruben Amorim would want to get this guy in because he knows what kind of quality to expect out of this player. And I think when it comes to matching the intensity of the Premier League, the way he plays, I think he can fit right into this team. And he is genuinely, one of those strikers who can create a chance out of nothing. He can, actually finish off half chances as well. And especially at United, we are not in a situation where you produce a lot of big chances. So you need, those sort of strikers who are very clinical in the little service they get. And in that aspect, I think Gyökeres is the guy for me. And I think even because of the age, I would go with Gyökeres, because I don't think Harry Kane is the sort of striker for this system. I really don't think that Harry Kane fits into this system with the kind of pace you want, with the kind of agility and the kind of pressing you want. And in the longer run, I would say as well, Harry Kane is not a striker you can build on for the next 4 to 5 years. You genuinely cannot. And I don't want it to be another Cavani or Ronaldo type signing that they come in, have a very good one season, and then next season you're scrambling again. We've had enough of that. So it's either Osimhen or Gyökeres for me.
Interesting. Maybe he might go back to Spurs and join big old Ange there and get that Premier League record that he was chasing before he went to Bayern Munich. Now they'll probably win a league title, I'm guessing, this year. So the kind of stigma that's attached to him that he's not a trophy winner or whatever, that he might get rid of that. But I'm just looking at the stats now so far this season. It's pretty incredible. So Victor Gyökeres, 33 games, 34 goals and 7 assists. So far, that's what he's got, right? And people will come at me saying it's the Portuguese league, blah blah blah. He scored 6 goals in the Champions League in 7 games, as well.
Hat-trick against City.
Hat-trick against Man City, and also Bruno Fernandes was doing that in Portugal, like those kind of stats. And then he came over to and he replicated. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. Victor Osimhen, 17 goals in 22 games, 5 assists for him as well. But obviously, the kind of move to Galatasaray was kind of all over the place, wasn't it? But I do think it's interesting. I really like both strikers. I would lean more towards Gyökeres simply because he's worked with the coach before, so the transition would be easier, and he knows you don't have that initial phase where you're like, okay, let's find out what he's really good at and what he's best at. Do you know what I mean? You don't need that. You need someone to come in and be like, right, this is the bagsman. He's going to score a lot of goals.
Yeah.
Just provide him with the ball, and he'll score. And I think Gyökeres can come in and do that. And I think Amorim leaving Sporting at that time probably knew that as well. He probably thought, I don't know if he had a conversation with him. I don't know if it goes that deep, but I'd imagine if you're a manager and you're going, Victor, I'm going to Manchester. Yeah. I want you to come with me. I'm not going to take you mid-season, but in the summer, we want you. So just bear that in mind when I go.
Giving you 6 months, pack every single thing that you've got. You're going to be on the plane to Manchester next season.
Yeah, I think so. I think there would have been a conversation there. But let's see what everyone else thinks. UTFR saying we're getting Gyökeres nailed on. You don't go to Spurs if you've got any ambition. The poor lad was forced. About tell. Steph saying Rúben needs to get some trusted players in Gyökeres. Hopefully solves our main problem next season. Imagine though if Gyökeres just didn't work out. That'd be such a... Because imagine bringing him in and then he flops. That'd be like, oh, because the curse at the minute with the attacking players, honestly. We need a really, really top-level goal scorer, and we have needed it for a bit. I know Ronaldo came in and done his thing, 17 goals, 18 goals in the first season, but we need a consistent one, year in, year out, for me. I bet Victor, but Gyökeres, for me, never trust someone in a mask. Gyökeres is the man. I can see Osimhen be in trouble. His ambition is to play, mate. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair from Tell. I get that. People were moaning Ten Hag was getting players from Holland, but now no Manchester United getting Kenda and Gyökeres from Sporting and Portugal. Doubt Gyökeres comes to United. Agree if you buy Kane, Euro after another striker 2 years down the line. Yeah, it's a good point. No longevity in it. Managers always do it. Atkinson bought Robbo with him. It didn't work out too bad, but there's loads of players that bring players. There's players that they trust. I mean, look at Lukaku at Napoli with Conte. You know, Lukaku's been to other places. Not £100 million, don't forget, to Chelsea. Yeah. Do not forget that. Didn't work out. Went to Napoli. Works with a coach that he knows that he's been with before. And now they're challenging for a title. It doesn't... I know there is PTSD there, of course, from Ten Hag, but when he brought in, Anthony, Onana and these kind of guys. I get it. But it doesn't always mean that it's not going to work out.
Yeah. And look, I've never called out Ten Hag because of the reason that he's always signing his old players into the team. What matters to me more is that, they come in and actually do a good job. De Ligt, I don't have any reservations about signing Matthias De Ligt. I think De Ligt is a very good signing and he's been doing an exceptional job. I think Mazraoui has been a very good signing as well. And I think as a centre-back, he can do even more for this team. Anthony has been a big miss. And I think some of the blame for it falls on Ten Hag, but majority of the blame for it falls on the club because of the price that they ended up paying, for Anthony. Because in a realistic scenario, he's only worth at max 40 mil, not more than that. And we ended up playing like 85, 90 mil for him. Amrabat was just not there, I would say. And except that Christian Eriksen for a free transfer hasn't really hurt us that much.
No. At the time as well, the first 6 months, it was pretty good.
Exactly. So most of his signings, I would say, barring Anthony. I mean, look at Lissandro. I think barring the injuries,
with Lissandro, it's been like he's been up and down for me. Like obviously recently, he's been really, really good. Last season when he played with Varane, he was decent, but there was other times where he got really exposed, and he had a really big dip towards the end of last season, the start of this season. I think because I was questioning him, I was like, I'm not sure.
I think injuries are getting to him at this point as well.
I think
so. But yes,
Casemiro's the big one for me.
I don't think Casemiro was a signing. I think it was a club directed signing mostly. But
yeah.
I think what killed him was his second season signings. Onana has not worked out at all, especially after De Gea has not filled in his shoes at all. Mason Mount has been a big flop for him as well. So, and these are the guys he actually placed his most trust on. So I think that's what actually killed us off.
Yeah, I agree with that. The summer is going to be very, very interesting, but we have a lot of games from now until then, and that includes Leicester tonight, which we will be live for people. So make sure you come and join us for sometimes early team news. We will be live. I think the game kicks off around 7 or 8 o'clock. So whatever the hour is before that, we'll be live as always, discussing it in depth. And all the latest news surrounding that game as well. So it'd be nice to see many of you there, and of course with a post-match reaction as well on a Friday night, which is really, really weird and bizarre. It's a good job I haven't got a popping social life in it, otherwise we won't be able to do a post-match reaction. But anyway, it's going to be a late one for you, Shreyas, so you're going to be able to watch it.
It's going to be at 1:30 a.m. at night, the kickoff. So what I'll do is I'll take a small glimpse at the lineup that is going to be playing, and then I'll make my decision. If I see Dalot and if I don't see Dogu, and if I see Casemiro Eriksen, I'll be like Leicester Cup. I'm just gonna sleep.
There we go. Yeah. Hopefully see you guys there tonight. Appreciate you tuning in today. Enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, we'll see you in a bit.